Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Here at Center Ice, I am Nick. Beside me here shortly is Brit, and she's racing home from a Muskies game. It sounds like they won in a very thrilling fashion, but she said she's racing on her way home, so she will be joining with us shortly. Before we get started with today's episode, don't forget everyone to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can also follow them on the various social media platforms that they provide. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and then at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, so last time we spoke last week, we threw out the possibilities of how this series could play out. And I said there were one of effectively four things, I guess. The first one's being you win 3 games in a row, close out the series in 5. You lose 3 games in a row, close out the series in 5. You split 1 and 2, or you split 2 and 1, and the games go back to Denver in 6. With the possibility of going maybe 7, staying at 6, who knows, right? Well, our divinations, as you will, they were to say that the Avalanche win 2 games and lose the 1, dropping and what I thought would be the one in Winnipeg for Game 5, and for Brit, it was maybe the Jets steal 1 for games 3 or 4. Well, we were both wrong. The Avalanche have advanced to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 5 games, winning games 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's right. After a really kind of abysmal play in game 1, which you still lost by 1. It just didn't feel that way, I will say. You just buzzsaw them. I mean, just the overall play that you played from game 2 all the way to game 5 was dang near immaculate. Like, it really was. Obviously, there some things that were noticeable and stuff like that, but overall, you took advantage of power plays when they came. You took advantage of a really good penalty kill. Alexander Georgiev showed up and played extremely well. But we'll get into all that. Kind of take it a little bit game by game from at least games 3, 4, and 5, since those are the ones that we haven't covered yet. So let's kind of start off with the question. So they've advanced to the second round. How did this happen? Like, how did they turn this thing just on its head and have the Jets, as I think it was Paul Bissonnette said, they ran right into a buzzsaw? And how did that happen? Well, first, your goalie play. That's probably your biggest one, because obviously there's 5 skaters, but there's only 1 goalie. If that goalie shows up, you're in good shape. If not, he lets in things, and you kind of either have to rely on a defense, which could be hit and miss, or you just kind of hope puck luck is on your side, right? Which for the Colorado Avalanche doesn't seem to be a thing. So goalie play was definitely the big one. Obviously, we talked about last week how Alexander Georgiev, and again, Britt and I are the sympathizers for Alexander Georgiev. We have his back at like 100% of the time, right? It wasn't easy to say he had a good game 1. He did not play well. That is a given, and we will be the first to admit that. However, game 2, which we also did address, he turned it around, and it's for a playoff series and for a goalie to be able to take, I guess let me back up. End of the regular season, he had a pretty spiraling down kind of trend, and it did kind of poke its head out in game 1. He obviously, like I said, let in 7 goals, which for a playoff game, you really should not be letting in any more than like 2 or 3. Right? It's crunch time. It's win or go home. Like, that's really all it is. But to turn it around, basically flip-flop it on its head, and then games 2, 3, 4, 5 right in a row, you have beyond a solid game, solid performances for all of them. Obviously let in a couple or 3 or whatever that is, but that's kind of the give and play for a playoff type atmosphere, at least for me. Right. I think 2 or 3 is kind of the allowance, if you will. And again, I'm no I'm not one to walk the walk, although I talk the talk. But to me, I think it's respectable if you let in 2 or 3, but you are still able to win a game, given your second reason that this series ended in 5, and that was a relentless offensive arsenal. Right? I mean, you look at what the offense for this Colorado Avalanche was able to produce. Taking it game by game, let me just kind of run you through some numbers, and I want you to know, which I'm sure everyone has seen, I want you to notice a trend. So if I go to game 1, I'm starting 1 through 5. Game 1, you lose the game 6-7. Game 2, you win 5-2. Game 3, you win 6-2. Game 4, you win 5-1, and game 5, you win 6-3. If you notice, despite the loss, you score at least 5 goals in every single game. That's a testament to offensive firepower. Now, granted, there were empty netters, like I recognize that. However, 5 goals were scored. And in one way, shape, or another, you scored 5 goals minimum in every single game. Why is that relevant in this series? You have to look on the other side of the ice. In net for the Winnipeg Jets, for the most part, was your probable Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuck. And he even had a statement. Well, actually, I'll save that until the end of kind of what I'm describing. But he's no slouch when it comes to playing the position. And the Avalanche just made him look pedestrian. They were just absolutely relentless with their offensive numbers. And speaking of the numbers, there were 2 guys, at least as far as goals were scored, that stood out to me. The first one being Val Nichushkin, 7 goals in the 5-game series, and Arturi Lehkonen, 5 goals in the 5-game series. Those guys showed up big time, right? When other people were lacking, or just were having tough luck or whatever it is, they showed up in a big way. And we'll get to them in just a second. But to me, those are 2 guys that spearheaded this just offensive barrage on Connor Hellebuck. And granted, you threw 35, 40 shots a game on Hellebuck, which is a substantial amount. But eventually, just the crack starts to let water, and eventually the dam breaks, right? So overall, that's kind of another reason how this series ended in 5, which, again, outrageously good, right? That you get 5 goals minimum every single game because of this offense. And we've known this to be, hey!
Hello, how's it going?
Good. I was just explaining to everyone kind of what and why this Avalanche team won in 5. And so I talked about goalie play, and now I'm talking about the fact that you had just an offensive barrage, scoring a minimum of 5 goals every single game.
Yes, okay, where's my thing that I went and looked at some stuff because I was curious, because I don't want to say that they weren't good, but our first line was not the story of the series. It wasn't, we didn't have that McKinnon game where he, went insane. We had such an insane spread of points throughout this entire series. Depth. That was, why did the Kraken beat us? Because they had 4 good lines. But the way that our team got points, assists, goals, contribution from every single line up and down is honestly the biggest confidence booster I have in this team, because it's been this story all year that we're a 1-line team, and to see us be without Drouin, first of all, 50-point guy. What did he end the season with? Close to 50 points, 40 points, whatever.
I think, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, but essentially people acted like he was the only reason that McKinnon was able to hit his 50 goals and all of his points, because Drouin was feeding him. But we went without him, and without our top line really owning the show, and we dominated the Vezina, the most likely Vezina winning goalie. I mean, Can you imagine he's gonna take home that Vezina and have to just, ugh. Could you?
Yeah.
It's gonna be such a disgusting feeling for him to even have that Vezina out, knowing how that
Yeah.
year finished out for him, and he
And
didn't play that bad.
and that was one thing that I alluded to just before you hopped on, was that Connor Hellebuck had comments about how he thought he played. So I
Yeah,
guess I
didn't see
could just
that.
kind of recap. He thought he was playing the best hockey of his career, I think is what he said.
Yeah, and he
And
had some incredible saves, but he just said he didn't see him, which it helps to see him, you
it
know?
really does. That's kind of the first thing you need to do, I would assume.
Yeah.
But like I said, just a stellar goalie, and to be completely honest, probably the best goalie you'll see, probably if hopefully until you reach the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Right? He's the guy, right? So again, it just kind of is I almost want to say a better testament to the Avalanche, their offensive, just the relentlessness and just unwavering desire to just score goals, right? That
Yeah.
I think ultimately is kind of what unlocked this ability to kind of either get back into games because they were down at points,
From
but they
every
didn't give
line
up.
and every position. Our Josh Manson was an offensive animal. Devontae's not that great the first game, but man, he really fine-tuned it. I mean, you could arguably say that Manson was one of the MVPs of the series, honestly. Sammy G, limited sample size, but like that first game he was back, oh my God, he was an absolute animal. We saw our defense, the McCarr goal. Is that the goal of the year for our team at least?
I mean, at least for the Avalanche, I would assume it would be. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And that's up and down the lineup, up and down the positions. And that's feels a lot like 2022.
Yeah. And the kind of the third reason that I'll close out as far as kind of how this happened, to how the Avalanche win this series in 5, it boils down to special teams, believe it or not. Your penalty kill more than obviously your power play. Your power play, you went over for a good number of them. But credit Winnipeg, they are not a very heavily penalized team. There was the one game, I think it was game 3 or 4, where they had like 6, right? So that one was the odd one out. Other than that, it was like 2, maybe, right?
Definitely like a frustration shining through.
Exactly. But for the Avalanche, they I guess, how should I put this? When they did have to kill the penalties, when it mattered most, they were able to do it. Right. Now, obviously, they let in, some for, obvious reasons. But when it came down to important ones that would sway the outcome or, tie the game, have Winnipeg go up 1, whatever it was, that 4-man crew, they showed up. And I think that is a really big attribution to how the Avalanche were able to lock everything down right after start of game 2 all the way up through game 5.
Yeah. Well, and that's the resilience of this team is so nice to see that we can get down. And I mean, think about that first game. We almost came back from like a 4-goal deficit.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally had to score 7 goals and still almost lost to us. So I got this thing that I took the information down. So last year in the 7 playoff games against the Kraken, they had 9 players with points, 7 players with at least 3 points, 3 multi-goal scorers, 1 non-top 6 forward point. How disgusting is that?
Wow.
Our depth only
this was last season's
point. Yes. So last season, we only had 1 dude not in the top 6 forward with a point in 7 games. So this year, and I did this after the 3rd game, we had 14 players with points, 9 players with at least 3 points, 5 multi-goal scorers, and 8 non-top 6 forwards with points. And that was after the 3rd game. And nothing changed. Our depth still kept, oh my God. There's so many things to be happy about. Our depth Trennan, oh my God. Like that guy.
Trennan was the one guy I noticed out of all the depth guys.
And Walker. Yep. I think Duhaime is maybe the only one that you're kind of like, he hasn't quite arrived yet, but you could literally go through every single person and just be like, oh my God. Because like Casey Middlestat, he has arrived in the playoffs and he gets it. he read the assignment. Like it's
seriously
incredible to see the way he's playing when he was such a question mark. Like this, he's never been in the playoffs. He's pretty small, like not super aggressive, and I didn't love that. I didn't love him with Nuke. But Nuke, let's move on to our next one. Absolute answer.
Yep. If there's the MVP for the series, all of my chips go right to Val Nichushkin.
And that's he knows that we're all still feeling a little bit of yuck, but he's paying us back. He's earning last year's absence.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's making up for it, but in a big, big way. I mean, even throughout the regular season, you could tell, like in the games that Nichushkin missed when he went to the rehab program and stuff like that, there was something missing. And when he came back,
he's looked.
And when he came back, things changed. Yeah. Right. It was really amazing, at least as far as the offense is concerned, right? That just took a better shape, had a better, manifested itself a little bit bolder. It was just really, really pleasant to see. And like I said, with 7 goals, 0 assists, granted, but 7 goals, right?
Well, lucky both. It's a franchise record.
I think it's even a series. I think, or not a series, a league record, isn't it?
Yeah. So him and Lecky both, which like Lecky, I don't know if a more clutch playoff player has existed.
He just turns into some other animal in the playoffs. It's amazing.
So underappreciated probably by most of the league. I feel like he definitely got some looks after our cup win, but he's not going to be discussed following this because he is just, you put him anywhere, anytime. I swear to God, we should just put him on defense and put Manson on forward. Like, can we just move?
Seriously, though. Seriously,
but he has got to be the most versatile player that shows up. Oh my God, it's just amazing. And one of those, I think he got credit for the own goal, but he's just everywhere, all over the place. He is probably the easiest dude to coach on the team. It seems like he just does exactly what he's asked of. And I've never seen him look frustrated or uncomfortable or fighting, the puck. He's just, oh God, but that's everyone right now. They're all playing so good.
Yeah, seriously though. So let's kind of take it game by game. So starting from game, let's see, we talked about 1 and 2 last week. So 3, 4, and 5. So game 3, the Avalanche win that game 6-2. And again, Georgiev has just started his heater, right? And he only allowed 2, and they were both in the second period, which is really pleasing because it wasn't a 1-shot, 1-goal scenario like it tends to be, right? So you are down in this game. You do score. Parise gets the first goal in the first period, but then by the end of 2, you're down 2-1. Mm-hmm. Enter the third period Avalanche that we know and love.
Yep.
5 goals in the third period. One of them obviously being an empty net, but 5 nonetheless, right? Yeah. To win that game 6-2. That was a just stunning display of how a third period goes, especially when you're down. It's not just tie it, take the 1-goal lead, and then see if you can fudge a second one, hold on to the first, whatever. It was just score again, make it hurt, right? Great stuff. And like I said, probably one of the better third periods we've seen from them all season.
I agree. I think that game, I think, felt like the game that we broke Hellebuck, broke him. Yeah. So I just felt like, I don't know, it broke them in general, I guess, but it just felt like there was times that you saw Hellebuck look exasperated, like you had not, he truly felt like, before the series started, Winnipeg truly was already discussing their arrival in the second round, whether they wanted Vancouver or not. Yep. They had pretty much written it off, which blows my mind. But I guess when you consider the end of this regular season, whatever, but it's a series for a reason. It doesn't matter your pairing. Heck, you just look at what happened to Toronto and Boston. Boston has choked away another 3-1
series lead, and it's heading to 7 back to Boston. Like
without Austin Matthews, they
without
have
Austin
not a single
Matthews.
game with their core 4. The first 2 games, no Nylander.
Yeah.
So you could arguably their best and second best player.
Yeah.
And Marner is basically not there.
Exactly.
Except for the last
so
game he was there.
That just, like I said, goes to show you that nobody knows how a series is going to unfold. Right. And it
First
could
thing
end.
We got goalies acting like assholes, man.
Exactly. And it can end just as quick as it began for you. Excuse me. Or you can run the distance on the series. You could guess all you want. You might be right. Most of the time, you're probably not. Right. And like we said last week, and this is what I was telling everyone, we both guessed that we were going to take those 3 games and win 2-1, losing one of the games and taking it to 6.
It was not supposed to be this high scoring. It's just not how the series was supposed to be.
Yep. And like I said, before the series began a couple weeks ago, I said it was going to be the Avalanche in 7. I did not see it being able to end in 5. It could have gone 4 had a little bit cleaner play for goaltending, defense had happened.
One extra save, buddy.
one extra save and 1 extra goal. Like that would have been that would have made it a sweep. Like crazy, right?
Yeah.
But in this game 3, obviously, that's like, I think you hit the nail on the head. That was the one where Hellebuck just said, I can't do this alone, right? And this Jets defense that was a stellar defense, really one of your big hitters, started to dissipate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to game 4, right? And this is the one where I think his confidence effectively, his being Connor Hellebuck, confidence effectively left him.
Yeah.
Right. He was pulled in this game after letting in 4.
So tough. The day that they announced the Vezina.
The day it was announced. Yep.
Yikes.
And it all comes because of a 3-goal second period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, sad to see because Connor Hellebuck, hell of a player. He really is, right?
Yeah.
Their whole team. It was a very, for as tough and hard hitting as it was, I just respect the hell out of the entire Winnipeg team, right? But you win this game 5-1. Obviously, Alexander Georgiev's finest in the series. Just letting in the Nate Schmidt goal, which he thought was going to be a lot slower when it came in, but Schmidt just had some firepower on that thing and just caught him too slow, right? So is what it is, right? However, the highlight of game 4 for me is the Val Nichushkin first career hat trick.
I know, it's really so hard to believe, but then you got to remember he also didn't score a goal for like 3 years. So he definitely wasn't racking up hat tricks in Dallas. So really, right. But it also surprised me like that McKinnon had only had like 3 or whatever, and Makar.
Yeah, and Makar had his first this season. Like,
you want to think
that weird to think about.
Yeah. And he deserved it. Like, oh my God, he deserved it. A hat trick in the playoffs is something else, especially in like a backbreaker game. It's not like it's the first game or the second game where you're playing loose and everybody, there's nothing. But this is like balls on the table.
And he showed up when it mattered the most. And honorable mention in this game, I will say, is that Cale Makar goal that we were referring to. Obviously, Nichushkin had his hat trick, one of them being the empty netter, but the goal of the game was Cale Makar taking it 200 feet, literally from behind Georgiev's net, weaving his way through the defense to just fire.
I would have called the cops before he even got to me. He's just phoning the police.
I thought of the Alex Petrangelo thing in the Tahoe game. That's kind of what I thought too, because you could see Makar.
Yeah. Oh no.
Right. Like you could tell something was about to happen. And just an outrageous goal.
Yeah. Like, especially the team that's like the defensiest defense with their goalie. Yeah. All they got to do is score a couple because their goalie and their defense, and they could not even begin to try to stop Cale Makar. And it's just like, it's not even fair.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to me, this is the game of the series, right? Was game 4. Just because
it felt over. Like they may as well just not
pretty much over at that point. Even if Winnipeg were to steal 5, it just felt like if it went back to Denver, it would have ended there at that point. But, just fantastic all the way around. One like I said, one goal let in by Georgiev, and that was really it. So okay, and then the series ending game 5, the Avalanche win this one 6-3. This one you knew going into the game that Winnipeg was going to give you everything they had, and they did. But that's the thing, is that was about it.
Yeah,
right?
that was their best.
That was their best. Like you nailed it right on the head.
I told you, I feel like they're just frauds and I can't figure out why. And it's because they are.
But what I think is nice is obviously they let in the own goal, which was credited to Kyle Connor. But let's be real, Winnipeg Jets legend Arturi Lehkonen is the one who scored that goal.
Yeah.
Let's be real with us. And then Val Nichushkin gets one really quickly right after. And I think that was the important thing to not have, especially in Winnipeg, where their arena is just, it's electric. It really is. That wideout is really cool, really fun to watch. But they play momentum really well in that arena. So to take that and kill that pretty quickly was exactly what you needed to do. Yakov Trenin, you go up 2-1, Winnipeg ties it. Lehkonen, you go up 3-2. Winnipeg ties in the third.
Just trading, which
what
better than a big lead. I don't know.
And what I thought was, like, I was never like anxious about this game because I knew in that third period stuff was going to ramp up, but it just felt like Winnipeg that entire game 5 was playing chase.
Getting like little bursts of.
They were having the little bursts, right? But for the rest, like I swear, about 45 of the 60 minutes, they were just chasing the Avalanche around the rink. Couldn't catch up. And eventually it bit them in the butt when Mikko Rantanen finally gets his first 2 goals of the series.
When you saw him snap that, he missed a wide open net. He snapped that stick over your leg.
That right there, yep.
Mikko Rantanen has finally awakened. Like the moose is actually loose, and
that's exactly right. I think Mikko's turnaround point.
Rager.
He just, I don't know if he broke it over his body, but from the camera angle,
it is to break a stick over any limb or part of your body. It's really hard.
It is not easy, and not that I've tried, but it's not easy.
The most like badass
it was
like
cool
indicator. Every fan in Colorado was like, "Oh heck yeah, here we go!" Yeah, we all knew it was on. Winnipeg should have known. Like this is
from the camera angles, it looked like he just straight up took his stick and just snapped it into like it was like.
And I thought like surely nobody's gonna be mad about that. And it was like we all knew that like he's been quiet, still getting tons of points. Yes, I know, but he has not been
the goal scorer.
No, he can be, and that was such a distinct moment in time that every Avalanche fan knew that we're winning this freaking game.
And as soon as it was like the rage moose, I guess you could say, it just gets the glowing red eyes and just starts to go on this berserk kind of rage. And sure enough, he gets the next 2 goals. One of them a redirect, which you could see the elation and like the weight off the shoulder. And then the dagger, the odd man rush where you had Nate assisting over to Mikko. Mikko just puts it in. Awesome one-timer, like just as perfect as can be. And then obviously the one that sunk them all. 2 seconds left in the game, granted, but Josh Manson's effectively 200-foot bomb. Empty netter was pretty cool. But that was it. Like that, you kind of knew as soon as that third period and that Mikko Rantanen goal, more than anything, you're like, okay, Winnipeg's going to play over desperate. They're going to overcorrect with a lot of things, and it cost them the game, right? And not easy to come back 3-1, right? Most times you won't.
It was a pretty eventful game. We had Parise. We lost him for a good part of the period, so we saw some weird lineage. We saw
Makar, same thing. Ross
Colton. I was like, I don't want to go to sleep because I feel like when I wake up, they're going to tell me that Cale Makar's got a broken rib. If I just don't go to sleep, I can't wake up to
just stay awake all night.
But he was definitely he was gone for a bit and came back, right? But
yeah,
he looked like
they all came back.
Hurting. Then you have, man, Pionk is such a douche. I'm so glad we're done with him. That cross check on Ross Colton, like, what was that?
It was dumb, is what it was.
Yeah, and that's what kind of got to the point, like middle of the game, where you're like, please just don't let any of us get injured. But we weren't to a point where we could like stop sending people out. But God, so hopefully, did they say anything about Parise maybe having a concussion, or was it just concussion protocol? Because he came back, but then he left again. He was gone.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they haven't downgraded him to like day-to-day or anything like that. So I think it was just a protocol, but maybe he's okay.
That was just an accident. Parise, like, didn't he end up getting
he took like a thigh to the face, right? Like, and he was falling down, so it wasn't like an egregious play. It wasn't on purpose, intentional, nothing like that. It was just one of those. He was going after it, kind of tripped up himself, and as he's coming down, a leg just ran right in the face. So, but I will say, at least in this series, before we go on to kind of the next little bit, Parise seems like he's playing like a man possessed.
Oh yeah, right? He's got that rejuvenated. It's that Darren Helm vibes. Like
that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is he knows it's his last run, so he's giving it everything he has, and you can see he's everywhere.
And it's been a big ask. We put him on the first line. Like, can you imagine being that old and having to keep up with McKinnon? Like, 39 is essentially like deathbed. Like
that's like your limit.
Geriatric is. I don't think he's the oldest in the league. Isn't
Ovechkin, isn't it?
Oh, is it? I thought it was the one on Toronto, not Tavares. Gio? Is he?
Giordano?
He's definitely one of the.
He's up there. They're all up there.
Yeah. And I can guarantee you that most of them aren't playing on the first line, especially after taking half a year off. I don't know. Maybe that was a good thing, a helpful thing.
Could have been. I mean,
I also just remembered that nobody signed Phil Kessel for the playoffs, and that kind of makes me sad. I thought he was going to.
Not happy with Vancouver for leading him on, though. I will say that.
They screwed him.
Slap on the wrist, Vancouver fans. Slap on the wrist.
Yuck.
However, with Parise's recovery, if there is a concussion, you do want all the days you can get, obviously, to recover.
Yeah.
That takes me to my next questions. Obviously, it's our best interest, the Avalanche's best interest, that the Dallas-Vegas series goes all the way to 7 and like quadruple overtime in every single the last 2 games if it goes to that. Who is the preferred opponent in round 2 for the Avalanche? Who do you think?
At this point, I don't think it really matters. I have like gone back and forth on it. Vegas, they both have goalie issues. Ottinger's been just as streaky as anyone. Vegas, they don't even have like a solidified starting goaltender, although not who's their other goalie? Aiden Hill. Laurent Brossoit, so I keep wanting to say, but that's Winnipeg's backup now. Logan Thompson stood on his absolute freaking head a couple times. So I don't know. I usually consider those like the biggest factor, like which clearly we don't give a shit if the goalie is the best goalie in the world. We're literally here to score 5 goals on him, that was a new record we set too. 5 goals in all 5 games.
In all 5 games.
Then I try to think, okay, well, who's less likely to injure the most players on our team? And it's like, well, both of them. We'll probably both have injuries. Both teams. I don't know. I think I like the idea of beating Dallas and conquering that demon. And I think it'll be better hockey that won't make me want to pull my hair out nearly as much as Vegas. But it'll be interesting to see, too. There's going to be injuries before this series is over between them. So it'd be nice if maybe Mark Stone could be like actually out or, But yeah, we'll see. Looks like Pietrangelo is going to maybe get himself suspended for the rest of the season. We'll see. Their tension's getting very, very, very high there. That Sagan doesn't deserve everything that he gets coming his way, but that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it was, you're just like,
I honestly,
you just watched your team the game.
The worst answer, but I think either one of them really. So then I try to think maybe Vegas so that we have the nicest travel schedule. Because that's not too hard travel.
Could be. I think ultimately you are correct. I would agree with you. I think either one of them have their faults, and you've seen the game. It's back and forth, but it's really lower scoring. And
it's
they both
heavy
just seem to
flow.
play very like a very heavy game. They're very sluggish.
I think that
You know,
we can I mean, if things go right, we get out there and outskate them. And so heavy.
that and with speed and kind of that skill set alone, I think we're in great shape. And if you know, if I had to pick one, I would probably say give me Vegas.
Yeah.
The only reason why is because, granted, yeah, they've done the whole capture convention, they have everyone back, but those guys that came back, specifically talking about Hurdle and Stone, yeah,
Yep.
they've been playing good, but the rest of them have seemed to take a step back.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and we don't have Byram anymore, so Colasar doesn't have to kill anyone.
Have to kill anyone, yeah.
And it would just feel so good to beat them.
And the other reason why I say Vegas is because you look at what they just did with their goaltenders. They swapped them. That's a momentum killer for any goaltender. If you have to play to two different goalies.
Had a game out of his freaking mind, and it doesn't matter if you're paying Thompson $4 and Aiden Hill $5 million. You play. How could you do that?
You play the hot hand, and you switched it. So if Vegas does get out of this, that goalie switch to me could be kind of the ultimate downfall effectively of Vegas, because now if it goes to 7, which obviously would have to, if Vegas wins the series, they'd have to win 6 and 7. That means they're gassed.
They shit on Logan Thompson, like, so he's not
exactly right. And with the Avalanche being done in 5, kind of very similar to the Nashville series and the cup winning year.
Yeah, talk about a weird year, just a bunch of sweeps, like
yeah, you won that one in 4, and then you went on in game 1 against St. Louis and just trashed the place.
Yeah.
Right? Just ran away with it. And St. Louis knew that, so they purposely, I think, took the L. And I'm wondering if you maybe try to do the same thing against Vegas, right? Yeah. Where you try to get that 2-goal or two game series lead against them, and by then they're gonna be kind of right back to that play of trying to get things figured out, but with the goalie momentum, it might be too late. That's why ultimately, like I said, Vegas is my preferred opponent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like you said, I mean, Dallas has its own issues, right? So it could be just either one. Who cares? We'll take whatever we can get and just mop the floor with them. I would feel
a lot more like, just like personal, not professional excitement in just beating Vegas. Like literally anything negative that happens to Vegas makes most
personal reasons. Yep.
Yeah, just like my just desperate enjoyment of Vegas suffering.
Yeah,
I haven't suffered enough, and for them to have like as egregious and like just as like loud and obnoxious as they were about the Capster convention, if there were ever a year for them to just get slapped in the mouth by not going very far in the playoffs, I think that would just be such karma.
It is poetic. There is a downside to that, though, that I was just kind of thinking is that, you circumvent the cap, you go out and lose round 1, so it just slaps you right across the face. You thought you were going to be sneaky good, and nope.
Yeah.
The other side of that, though, is you have now just proven that capture convention doesn't always guarantee anything, so you can do it as much as you want.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't do anything when like so many of them have just really it does. I mean, you would have thought that Hurdle, I don't know, and they're stuck with Hurdle for a long time, so hopefully he keeps being relatively.
I know. I want him back on San Jose really bad.
He is in Vegas. Well, I mean, contracts don't mean
trade him.
So they'll give him away for free,
Tell you what, trade Tomas Hurdle to Utah. We'll take care of him.
Yep.
Sounds weird to say that now, doesn't it?
It's weird.
But either way,
didn't you hear?
Oh yeah, no. I tell you what, just small tangent. I want Utah to go after Reinhart.
Oh, that is another one. I feel like they're going to
Reinhart and Gensel are the two that I want
to keep Reinhart. I just think that.
Oh, they absolutely will. Oh yeah, there's no question they're going to throw the whole kitchen sink at him. But
I've heard Warner for Clayton Keller thrown out there.
I would never.
I wouldn't, but I think Mitch is going to go pop off somewhere. I think he cannot handle the Toronto abuse. Sensitive Mitchie.
There you go.
He's going to go do some good somewhere.
Good deal. So again, we'll just have to see how the Vegas Dallas series pans out, if Dallas just wins it in 6 in Vegas, or it goes back to Dallas for 7 and winner take
Hopefully
all.
as long as possible. So
Exactly.
Drouin had a deep gash in his thigh. And so
Is that what it was?
Yes. Oh, did we not talk about this? So yes, he got a really deep. If you go watch the video again, you can see exactly where it happened. So it's a deep gash in his thigh. It's and they just don't want him playing with gear until the infection risk is lower. It sounds like best case scenario is like mid to end of just in my Cale Makar goal. Which I don't want to like put a positive light on it, but I feel like first of all, you're like having PTSD like Gabe Landeskog had a deep, but it doesn't that even near the it's really just a healing thing, like it didn't cut tendons or whatever, but that's something that shouldn't like linger. You know what I mean? Like an ankle sprain is like that can screw you up.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like end of I mean, especially if we
mid to end of round 2.
Maybe don't even push it.
Maybe, yeah.
But as long as we can drag shit out, that's good for us.
Yeah, and I think you just kind of played beautifully into the next segment that I was going to say is how much are we missing the injured players? And there are two in particular that I want to bring up. The first one that you mentioned, Jonathan Drouin. Mm-hmm. The second one, though, we lost him a little bit ago, and that's Logan O'Connor.
I know, and that's what. Logan O'Connor, I thought of him a lot during the Winnipeg series because he would have like gone off in that.
He would have picked off passes from Winnipeg on that penalty kill like crazy.
Like they could not contain our grinders. Like Trennan to me is a light nuke, heavy LOC, and I just feel like he made fools of them. He's not like artistic. He's not overly creative. He doesn't have silky hands. He just busts his freaking butt. And I feel like Logan O'Connor, first of all, those two playing together would like be just the most wonderful chaos ever. But I just really think that able to win without him, but God, I would have loved to see him play in that. I miss LOC. It hurts so much not having LOC. I can't stand the thought of him like watching too. Yeah. Our press box had a pretty important people when you got Gabe, Drouin, and LOC up there. It's like, God, could you imagine if we had those 3 on the ice?
That would be just amazing, right? And I think you're exactly right. Trennan has filled rather nicely the shoes that Logan O'Connor left behind.
Yeah,
right?
He's gonna get paid after this year.
And like you mix that with like Andrew Cogliano, because that was the penalty killing duo at the beginning of this series of the season was O'Connor and Cogliano. It just felt like it was just 5-on-5, even though we were on the penalty kill. Like that was how important it was. So I think to kind of go ahead and answer my own question, as far as Logan O'Connor is concerned, you miss him a lot. Because he brings the speed, he brings the relentless energy. You know,
that he brings things that you don't even know you're missing because he
just has
these shocking moments that
he just kind of did it all, and you never needed to worry about him. Right. When he was skating on breakaways or whatever it was, you thought it was Nathan MacKinnon that had the puck.
Yeah.
He was great with his vision, assisting, stuff like that.
He was always he wasn't consistently going to score, but he was consistently going to perform at a B+. And the try was always there. The effort was always there. You never questioned his effort. His skills may be limited at times, but his effort always came first.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with O'Connor, like I said, he brings a certain skill set, but with Jonathan Drouin, he's a top 5 guy as far as your points production is concerned. It's a heavy producer that you are missing, right? And because of his newfound confidence, his newfound play, he's playing like back in the days with Nathan MacKinnon on the Newfoundland team, right?
Yeah.
The Halifax Moosehead. Sorry, that's what it was. He's playing with this younger, rejuvenated self where, again, I think you're at a point where you re-sign him. I think he wants to stay. I'm confident that he will. But again, he's got this new kind of fold that you saw, the one that that overtime winner, like I talked about last week, or against the
Yeah.
Penguins, where he did what Nathan McKinnon typically does
Yeah.
and took the game away himself, right?
And it's got to be almost confusing for other teams because he's Mr. Playmaker. And he's like, oh,
Exactly,
I take the goal
right?
myself. You.
Usually it's like Drouin feeding McKinnon or whatnot, and obviously there is
Just
vice versa.
very, very high hockey IQ. He has a
Yes.
beautiful, he and Middlestat both raised this team's hockey IQ so much. It's incredible. They both see the ice just as it's incredible. The stuff that they can see that other teams don't even, I don't know, especially Drouin.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, again, it's another bullet in the chamber, effectively, that you are missing, right? Another guy who can fire it. He's got great vision. He now has these newly reacquired skill sets, right? So clearly in this Winnipeg series wasn't necessary, right? Looking back. But the further you get down the
more important
trail, exactly, the more important
every little bit you can add goes.
Yep. And the fact that we got out of the first round injury free for the most part, knock on wood,
awesome,
was great.
So, somebody probably got something that is going to linger through till the end, but that was pretty unscathed. Like, thank God.
No, seriously. So again, they are missed in their own ways, and obviously, I don't think Logan O'Connor will come back in the playoffs at all. Really,
sounds like there's no chance.
Sounds like he's just done. But with Drouin, you have that chance to get him back. Obviously, if you don't need him in the second round, I think we're both on the same page when it said rest him as long as you can, get him as healthy as possible. But again, you can tell just if you do watch enough of the Avalanche, which obviously we both do, you notice things, right?
Yeah.
You see when there's like, oh, Logan O'Connor would have been able to do this, or Jonathan Drouin could have made that shot, stuff like that. But overall, still really happy with where the team is.
Still stand with my opinion. I think that Drouin has emerged as a leader in the locker room. I think that he is a big part of the leadership, which we kind of lacked. It seemed like, we lacked there was something that seemed to be missing with the, like the cohesion of the team last year and then through part of this year. And it really seems like he kind of took over as part of that leadership crew. And that kind of stuff is a lot more important, I think, than we could as fans would even know. Like the value that each person brings to the locker room. And like, I think LOC is one of those people too. He's always there answering to the media. He's just like one of those sweet souls. So it's hard to know what you miss in a locker room out of people. Yeah. So I got Ray asked a question here on
I was just about to get to that one.
It's so gross. First of all, if you throw a squid on ice, I look at you and I think this guy's had a squid in his pants up until this point.
Also, Nashville like catfish.
Did you see that new commercial where the guy has? Oh, it's so funny. This guy has a saran wrap catfish in his pants, and he's walking through the security, and the security guard's like patting him down, and he feels the catfish in the guy's waistband, and the guard looks at him, and the guard's like lets him go. It's like, I thought that was such a funny commercial. But then I've always thought about that. Like, I don't care how much saran wrap it's wrapped in, like the thought of walking with a fish
or an octopus.
Yes. Super gross. But that started with the Red Wings. That was
the Red Wings. Yeah, they threw an octopus. This was way back in I think it was 1952 was the year.
Yeah. And it's always funny to me. And it was a fish just because they own the fish market. Like,
and it's the same thing. Ray's clearly seen the one in Detroit. They've thrown the octopus on. Nashville has the catfish. Florida has the rats.
I like the toy rats. Like, just the thoughts of like toy rats raining down on Patrick Law.
But effectively, all it starts with is one guy that decides to throw something on the ice. I mean, it's. I wish there was something.
Owners just
it was all during just these key wins during Stanley Cup, finals runs or whatever. That they, during a really important victory, they threw it on the ice, and being the very superstitious bunch that hockey people are,
So dumb.
They just started it as a
like the
tradition.
throwing of underwear for Nathan McKinnon. Hopefully that one catches on, and the Avs
There you go.
throw underwear on the ice.
That's right. I'll have to rip off my bra next time and throw it on the ice. But
It's so funny.
But yeah, ultimately it just starts with one guy who was crazy, and the hockey people latch onto it, man. And so, like I said, with the catfish and the rats and the octopus and stuff like that, it's all just kind of become, it just falls into tradition.
And it's fun too that like hockey fans are good enough that like somebody hasn't like just freaking ruined it yet. You know what I mean? Like everything always has to get ruined. And it's crazy that such a weird, dumb superstition has lasted so long that it hasn't got to the point where like somebody throws a something and now nothing can be thrown on the ice or you go to jail. Like it's something that's really maintained a very, very long time.
I know, which is kind of annoying because it's like those are kind of fun traditions, right?
But that's fun. You couldn't pay me enough to put a dead animal in my clothing and sneak it through anywhere. But I do enjoy watching people do it.
There you go. And that's going to be everyone's homework. For those of you that are watching, send us for the Avalanche. What traditional animal would you throw onto the ice? Or not an animal? It could be article of clothing. Could be your phone. I don't care. Right? Yep. Everyone just throws their cell phones onto the ice. But let us know in the comments or DM us, whatever you feel like. Let us know what you would throw on the ice. What traditional item would you throw on the ice for the Avalanche? So, okay. With that being said, though, Britt, I really think that kind of covered everything. We're going to take some rest, see what happens in the Dallas-Vegas game. But other than that, I think it's kind of all about the waiting game.
It's going to be a really a big lull with all of the first round series is usually the most exciting, and man, it was the Rangers. Like they could have played a peewee team. Ovechkin held scoreless for the first time.
Islanders, I think they just had a quick little miracle from God that they won one game.
I know, God, they didn't belong there. It was
Tampa, they're out. So.
Man, bunch of cry.
I'm okay with it.
They're not ready for the downfall. And it's like, buddy, you have already
gonna hit them pretty hard too. I fear.
Yeah. But, it's gonna be pretty quiet. I mean, the
LA's out.
Boston Game 7 is going to be lit. Oh my God,
it'll be pretty awesome. So we'll be watching the rest of the series for sure. But like I said, the one marquee one is the Dallas-Vegas one. So I think by this time next week we'll have our matchup and have probably played a game or two. Yeah. So we'll talk about it and kind of the reactions overall, and then the first game or two, and kind of go from there. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. We really do enjoy your guys' participation. If you do like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. If you like us, and only us, because I mean, who doesn't, right? You can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs. Had somebody ask me Avs, AVS, not AVES.
No,
that's
Avs.
That's
our Avs are not
AVS. So at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. So with that being said, we'll celebrate our dance into the second round. Get some much needed rest. We'll wait to see who our opponent is, and by the time we talk next week, we'll kind of do some recap on the first game or two.
Yeah, so hopefully the vibes are still immaculate.
Yep, I think we keep on keeping on. So with that being said, have a great rest of your week, everyone, and as always, go Avs, go. Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.